My wife said. I was mugged last night, he left me alone and didn't even answer his phone. I replied, that sounds absolutely terrifying. Are you okay? I waited until her family was comforting her at her parents' house. Then I showed her father my restaurant receipt and her social media tags from the same time. She was at a wine bar with her ex-boyfriend. I, Spencer, 37, male, had been with Cassandra, 35, for 11 years, married for 8. Our life in Indianapolis was a carefully curated exhibition of her social ambitions. We lived in a stunningly restored historic home in the Meridian, Kessler neighborhood, a property I had meticulously renovated. I was a senior actuary for a large insurance company, a quiet, analytical career that earned me $150,000 a year. Cassandra, or Cassie, as she insisted her friends call her, was the grants manager for a prominent arts foundation, a position that brought in $80,000 annually but placed her at the center of the city's philanthropic scene. Our life was a calendar of her foundation's galas, dinners at places like St. Elmo's Steakhouse, and weekends with her friends, Trevor and Becca, who saw my profession as a world of spreadsheets, devoid of the passion they admired in her. Don't miss the twist. Subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. The opportunity that would ultimately change my life arrived on a crisp autumn morning. It was a formal offer letter from a global insurance conglomerate headquartered in Hartford, Connecticut. They were creating a new C-suite position to oversee all of their predictive modeling and risk assessment. They wanted me to be their first chief risk officer. It was a monumental career leap. The offer included a base salary of $280,000, a significant stock option package, a full relocation budget, and a new Lincoln Navigator as a company vehicle. I told Cassie that evening, my voice filled with a genuine excitement she hadn't heard in years. I described the challenge, the chance to build a new division, the historic charm of New England. She listened with the polite, patient smile she usually reserved for my discussions of statistical modeling. Hartford? She asked, a delicate frown forming. It's so old and stuffy, Spencer. It's where insurance companies go to die. She shook her head, her tone final. My entire professional life is here. I'm on the board of 2 charities. You can't expect me to trade that for a corporate job in a city with no pulse. Update 1. I quietly accepted the Hartford position. Her immediate dismissal of an opportunity that represented the pinnacle of my career was a clarifying moment. My ambition was an inconvenient variable in the carefully constructed equation of her life. She continued her campaign to frame my ambition as a form of regression. Over cocktails with Trevor and Becca, she sighed with performative sadness. Spencer has this idea to take a job in Connecticut, she said. It's a step back, really, a move to a less dynamic company. I'm worried he's losing his professional edge. Trevor, who worked in marketing, nodded sagely. You have to stay where the growth is, man. Her career has so much momentum here. Becca added, she needs a partner who understands the creative world. Spencer. They saw me as a man choosing a safer, duller path. I offered no defense. I had already begun my own logistical preparations. I opened a new set of private investment accounts with a Hartford-based firm. I spent my evenings researching historic Tudor-style homes in West Hartford, a beautiful, leafy suburb. I also began to notice her increased, secretive texting with an ex-boyfriend, a man named Mark, whom she had always dismissed as a harmless friend from the past. Update 2. I chose a Sunday morning to make my decision final. The house was quiet, filled with the sterile, magazine, perfect silence she had cultivated. Cassie, I've accepted the position in Hartford. I stated. I'm moving in 2 months. Her face, which had been relaxed as she scrolled through a design blog, hardened into a mask of disbelief. You actually went through with it. After I told you how damaging it would be to our life. I did. I confirmed. This is the most important work I could ever do. Your work. She scoffed. And what about my life? What about the world I have built for us? The world you built for yourself. I corrected, my voice even. I was just a resident. She stood up, her eyes blazing with a cold fire. Then you can go have your dusty provincial fantasy alone. You choose that, or you choose me. You don't get both. I thought of her quiet condescension, of the life I was expected to finance but not truly inhabit. The choice was the easiest I had ever made. I choose my work. I answered. Update 3, the following weekend, the final, desperate act of her drama unfolded. I was out for a quiet dinner alone, reviewing some of the preliminary data for my new role. My phone was on silent. When I returned home, the house was dark. The next morning, Cassie called me from her parents' house, her voice thick with fake tears. She told me she had been mugged the night before while walking home from a charity event. He left me alone. She sobbed. He didn't even answer his phone. I replied with practiced concern. That sounds absolutely terrifying. Are you okay? That afternoon, I went to her parents' house. Cassie was on the sofa, wrapped in a blanket, being comforted by her mother. Her father, a proud, honorable man, looked at me with an expression of profound disappointment. A man is supposed to be there for his wife, Spencer, he said, his voice heavy. I waited for the performance to reach its peak. Then, I quietly walked over to her father. Sir, I began, my voice calm and steady. I'm so glad Cassie is safe. But she wasn't mugged. I handed him 2 pieces of paper from my coat pocket. The first was my time-stamped receipt from the quiet restaurant, where I had been dining alone. The second was a printout of a public social media post from a trendy wine bar downtown. It was a photo of Cassie and her ex-boyfriend, Mark, smiling and raising their glasses. The post was tagged with their names and time, stamped from the exact time of her supposed mugging. Her father stared at the papers, his face turning from disappointment to a slow, dawning horror. Her mother's comforting words died in her throat. Cassie's performance ended in a choked, silent sob. I turned and walked out of the house, leaving the wreckage of her lies for them to clean up. Update 4. 6 months in Hartford was like stepping into a different life. The rich history and the quiet, intellectual energy of New England suited me perfectly. My new home in West Hartford was a beautiful brick two-door, a place of substance and character. The Lincoln Navigator was a smooth, powerful vehicle, a quiet symbol of my new reality. My work was more challenging and more rewarding than I could have ever imagined. My team and I developed a new predictive model for catastrophic weather events that would save the company billions and, more importantly, help protect countless lives. The board was ecstatic. I received a $100,000 performance bonus. One evening, I received an email from Becca. Spencer, she wrote, we are so sorry. Cassie had us all completely fooled. She told everyone about the night she was mugged, about how you had abandoned her. We finally heard from her parents what really happened. I thought of Cassie's lie, the one she had constructed to make me the villain. Her accusation that I didn't even answer his phone was the detail designed to inflict the most damage. It was a calculated, cruel fiction. I replied politely but kept my distance. Thank you for your email. I wish you well. Update 5. My company's annual report to shareholders featured our new risk model as its centerpiece. An article in the Wall Street Journal profiled the innovation, with my name and new title, Chief Risk Officer, prominently displayed. The article was a public validation of the life I had chosen. It circulated widely, and the shockwaves eventually reached Indianapolis. Cassie's emails began that night. Chief Risk Officer. You let me believe it was a lateral move. One accused. You planned this all along to humiliate me. Another claimed. Then came the call from Trevor. His voice was thick with shame. Spencer, man, we were so wrong, he said. Chassis painted this picture of you as a man having a breakdown, of you running away from a successful life. We saw that article. We had no idea. My own family, who had been worried and confused by the sudden implosion of my marriage, called, their voices filled with relief and pride. The verifiable, public truth had finally silenced her private, manipulative lies. Update 6. She appeared on my doorstep in West Hartford a month later. She had flown in unannounced, a desperate pilgrimage to the life she had so carelessly dismissed. She looked smaller, her usual confident energy replaced by a brittle, anxious uncertainty. Spencer, she began, her voice soft. I was wrong. About everything? What were you wrong about, Cassie? I asked, my voice flat. I was lost, she said, tears welling in her eyes. I was so caught up in that world, I lost sight of what was real. But I've been in therapy. I've changed. I see now what a wonderful, meaningful life you have here. I can be the partner you deserve. I looked at her, and the memory of her face at her parents' house, the moment her carefully constructed world shattered, was as clear as the autumn air. You didn't just lie to me, Cassie, I said. You invented a violent crime and made me the villain in the story to manipulate your own family. I was desperate, she insisted. No, I replied calmly. You were dishonest. There is no foundation to rebuild on. I stepped back inside. Goodbye, Cassie. Update 7. Her rejection fueled a final, vindictive act. In our divorce proceedings, she attempted to claim a significant portion of my new income, arguing that my emotional abandonment during her traumatic mugging had caused her severe psychological distress, impacting her ability to work. It was a pathetic, transparent legal maneuver. My lawyer was prepared. We presented the time-stamped receipt, the social media tags, and a sworn affidavit from her ex-boyfriend, Mark, who, when subpoenaed, reluctantly confirmed their dinner date. The judge dismissed her claim in a single hearing, admonishing her for attempting to use a fabricated crime to defraud the court. Update 8. A year passed. My work was my passion, and my life was full of a quiet, intellectual joy. I had been promoted to executive vice president. I was in a new, healthy relationship with a woman named Dr. Alastair Finch, a brilliant art history professor at Yale. Our connection was built on a shared love for quiet beauty and a deep, easy honesty. One evening, a final email from Cassie arrived. She had lost her job at the foundation. The story of her lies had spread through the small, interconnected world of Indianapolis philanthropy. She had moved to a different city and was working a low-level job in marketing. I built my life around a performance, she wrote. And you showed everyone the truth. I am sorry for the pain I caused. I replied with a short, polite message. I wish you peace. I blocked her email address. Final update. Several months later, I was the guest of honor at a fundraiser for the Wadsworth Atheneum Museum of Art in Hartford. After my speech, a distinguished older gentleman approached me. It was Cassie's father. He had flown in just for the event. He shook my hand, his grip firm. Spencer, he began, his voice heavy with a sincere regret. I need to apologize. We were so caught up in Cassie's world, in the image she projected, that we failed to see the truth. He shook his head. That day at our house, what you did was a terrible, necessary thing. It was the only way to make us see. He looked at me, his eyes clear. She told us you had abandoned her after she was mugged. She created a world where she was the victim and you were the villain. He sighed. I am so sorry we didn't see it sooner. His words brought a quiet, final sense of resolution. I reflected on the lesson of the past 2 years. The most dangerous lies are not the ones people tell others, but the ones they tell themselves. Cassie had built a life so focused on a curated image of success that she had lost the ability to distinguish between her performance and reality. Her lie about the mugging was the desperate act of a performer who had forgotten she was on a stage. By simply presenting the quiet, verifiable truth, I hadn't just exposed her lie. I had ended the play, and in the quiet, authentic reality of my new life, I had finally found my peace.